Good morning, my friends. I am a few minutes early. Planning on going live at 11 a.m. And it is just a few minutes before. So, I've been scrolling this morning. As many of you know, I got out of my last truck about 8 months ago now. And it's been nice. It's been nice being out of the truck after spending over 20 years behind the wheel. It's been very nice. However, while I'm out of the truck, I still want to help as many people as I can, both people who are still driving truck and people who are in other occupations. But this morning, the reason I'm on here is because I was scrolling through my LinkedIn feed. And as you can imagine, I mean, there are a lot of posts from yesterday about the kickoff of the new Tesla truck, which the editor at LinkedIn News, Sandra Latham, she does a great job of with her article. Great article. However, there are so many posts about this. I don't know how everybody feels about it. You know, I can't speak from every person's perspective in the trucking industry, right? I'm only one person. I know a lot of people in the industry are really hyped about the EV trucks, and a lot of people are not really hyped about the EV trucks. I think that companies like Pepsi with their Frito Lay um, trucks are going to do very well. Their trucks are going to be, I think most of them will be regional at best, not true over the road. And that's what a lot of people are talking about, is how this is going to be an over the road truck with a 500-mile range. One guy actually posted some things that sound good on the front, right? Yeah, I mean, electric can be good, but here's my thing. While I like the idea, while I think it's a great idea, they are touting the whole emissions thing, right? And how it's going to lower vehicle emissions. And that's true. You know, it can lower vehicle emissions. Now, one of the designers made a comment that I can't find it here, but she said something to the effect of that it was going to lower vehicle emissions around 36%. Now, here's my problem with that. My problem with that is that these electric trucks are not going to become a mainstream thing for a while. To reduce general emissions, vehicle emissions, by that much is not going to happen quickly. That's just an impossibility. I mean, let's be real. But here's the thing that they're not talking about, and that is the fact that while these EVs will help lower our vehicle emissions, they're still going to be a lot of emissions, especially as they have to ramp up coal production and that kind of thing. So I think at the end of the day, what you'll find, at least over the next 5 to 10 years, is that there's not a lot of reduction in actual overall emissions. Again, you know, especially at that 36% rate that she put out there. I wish I could find that article again. I'm looking for it here, and I can't find it. Is this it? No, that's not it. Anyways, my point is, is that while they can be great, I don't think we're going to see the outcome that they're wanting to see from these very soon. All that said, I also want to say that there are a lot of people talking, in their posts, they're writing things about Twitter. Yeah, this one guy says, I don't know, after Twitter, I don't know if I trust his business decisions. Really? You don't know if you trust his business decisions because of Twitter? Everything else that he's done in Twitter, that's your breaking point, huh? Yeah. Someone else, another failed Musk promise. Two concept vehicles were shown in 2017, and Musk promised to begin production in 2019 and be producing 100,000 units per year in 2022. It's now December 2022, and what's hyped here are the first units. I suspect this hype is intended to divert public attention from Twitter. Now, I'm not going to put these people on blast. I'm not going to tell you their names. But wow is all I can say to that. It's like he totally missed, that whole thing that the government pushed down our throat about the whole pandemic thing there for a couple of years. And surely that had nothing to do with the pushback of production, right? Where you needed people to be present to work. Yeah, some of the things that people are just putting out here just because they're mad about Twitter, you know, it's funny. It actually cracks me up. People can't get past one part of their mind to look at the others, and these people are supposed to be business people, right? My question is, how are they able to run business if they can't get over, one part of business to look at the other part of business? Hey, that's on them, right? That's their business. But yeah, I mean, let's really talk about this whole EV truck issue. Okay. Here's my thing. Yes, it can reduce emissions, but it's going to take a minimum of 5 to 10 years before we see any even small amount that's worth saying, oh, this is all about EV. There are some other things that this can also be good for. I mean, one of the things that it's going to, I think, help is our noise. Noise, well, possibly. It will hopefully help us control noise better at truck stops, maybe, right? It sure would be nice to for many of you who are driving to be able to park at night without trucks always running all the time, right? So that's a plus. I mean, we've cut down on a lot of that over the past 10 years, really 20 years, with different technologies that we've begun using. But, and I, when I say power packs and things like that, I know that people who aren't truck drivers don't know what I'm talking about. But for those of you who are truck drivers, what there are and what there aren't, and how some of them are actually noisy and can actually disturb people's sleep more than the truck running all night. So there's that. And it's important, and I don't think a lot of people understand how important it really is for truck drivers to be able to sleep in their trucks. I mean, you don't run long haul over the road routes and not sleep for a week or two or three, or some of us have been out for months at a time. So yeah, I mean, there's the noise factor, and hopefully some of the concepts built into this will help take care of that. I do think that overall, though, as far as like parking places are already hard to find, right? And I don't think a lot of people really understand how difficult it is to find a parking place. And yes, more so at night, but sometimes even during the day. These trucks will be great if you are leaving your terminal, going out, making your delivery, and coming straight back to the terminal. That's about it. They talk about setting up an infrastructure for charging these trucks, whatever. It's going to take time for these trucks to actually charge, right? I mean, they're not going to you're not going to plug it in and it's going to be fully charged in 10 minutes. I don't think that's been said. I don't think that's a possibility, honestly. I mean, you're looking at these huge batteries, right? They're not going to charge like that. It's going to take them time to charge. So, what are you going to have, like these stations where you can literally park 200-300 trucks side by side to charge? Are we going to put plugs out in the lot that you just plug into in your normal parking spot? Let me tell you something. There were a group of trucking truck stops that tried doing something like that as far as putting power plugs out across the lot. There's been several attempts at things like that over the years, and they get destroyed. Okay, you're dealing with huge trucks. The power points get destroyed. Okay, and just a heads up for some of you guys, not all truck drivers are good drivers. Things get destroyed at truck stops out in the lots. Okay. So, yeah, I think really building an infrastructure that's sensible, that will actually work for charging all of these trucks, is going to be very difficult to put into place. I think the best place for these trucks right now, especially, is for short haul, is for maybe some regional. But again, the key is going to be that the truck leaves terminal in the morning and comes back to a terminal at night. And it doesn't even have to be the same terminal. Obviously, you've got large companies, you've got ABS, or yeah, sure you do. Anyways, you've got a lot of large companies with terminals all over, right? And so you could theoretically, get in your truck at Terminal A in Cincinnati, Ohio. You could run your truck from Cincinnati, Ohio to Atlanta, Georgia, and go to your terminal there and shut down, do your 10-hour break. Then get up after your 10-hour break and drive to, say, Jacksonville, Florida, and back. Okay. That's reasonable. But that means that every truck driver is going to be stuck staying at terminals. There's not going to be any going and stopping at truck stops to spend the night where you actually can converse with other people other than people who work for the same company. You're not going to have a life, basically, is my feeling on that. And I don't know. I want to know how other people feel. Make sure that you leave comments and tell me how you feel about what I'm saying, because these are just my thoughts, my ideas. But I do want to hear from other people on this topic, because this is a big topic. And this has been a topic coming up now for years. But here we are with Tesla doing this. It's really put into the mainstream. And I want to hear what other people think. One guy made the comment that the 500-mile thing is really going to work well with current hours of service rules. Well, I don't know about you, but when I was running a long haul, I could do 650, 700 miles in a day in 11 hours. Speed limit's 70 mile an hour. He was talking about, average is 50 miles an hour. Yes, in some areas. In some areas, it is 50 miles an hour. But that's not everywhere. That's not even the majority of places. If you're up in the Northeast, yeah, you're going to be going slow. If you're in California, yeah, you're going to be going slow. But that's not the rest of the country, right? Yeah, if you come into a big city area, you're in Dallas, Fort Worth, you're in Chicago, you're in Atlanta, yeah, you're going to be going slower. But that's not your all-day average. To believe that truck drivers only do an average of 50 miles an hour over the course of their day is just wrong. It's wrong. As a matter of fact, most of us who did long haul and who do long haul, we want to see a lot more than 500 miles a day. I mean, 500 miles a day pays the bills. But if you actually want to make money and set aside and have a nest egg built up, you're running more than 500 miles a day on a 5-day week. Now if you're running 6 days a week or 7 days a week, there are a lot of people that run 350 to 450 mile days, 6 and 7 days a week, and just continuously run without ever taking a 34-hour break. And that comes into a whole new conversation, right? The difference between those who continuously run on recaps and those who want to do a 34-hour break once a week. I'll be honest with you, I think most studies have shown that it's best for a person to have one full day of rest each week. I don't think it's healthy mentally or physically for people to run day after day after day after day, even if you're only working 7 hours a day, even if you're only working 8 hours a day, 9 hours a day, even if you're only working 6 hours a day. Let's go back the other way. If you're working 6 hours a day, 7 days a week, that's too much. You need a day of rest, period. Right? Your body needs that. Your mind needs that. To me, that's a no-brainer. So you want to run as many miles as you can in your 70 hours inside of 6 days instead of pushing it out and just continuously working day after day after day after day after day and running yourself out. That's my opinion. Again, leave me some comments. Tell me what you think. Tell me what you agree with, what you disagree with. But looking at the whole idea of the EV trucks, specifically looking at Tesla right now, where do you, if you're watching this and you are a truck driver, where do you see the EV truck model going in the next 5 to 10 years? What do you see it doing? Do you see it really working for long haul truck drivers who are staying at truck stops? Do you foresee an infrastructure that will allow that to happen? Or are you like me and kind of like, yeah, probably not? Yeah, I'm a little leery to say that it can't happen. I've seen a lot of things in the last 25 years in the trucking industry. I've seen a lot of things change that a lot of people thought, oh no, that'll never work. I mean, for instance, when I started driving in 98, so it's been 24 years, it'll be 25 years in June, this next June. But I, like I said, I left 8 months ago. So almost 24 years in the trucking industry, as a driver myself. But, when I started in 98, the e-logs, the electronic logging devices, were just starting to get into full swing. But I think there was only, I say full swing, not really full swing, because there was only like one or two companies really doing it at that time. Werner was the big one, right? The Werner was the one that really got them started out and just put them in all their trucks, which was good and bad in some ways. Now, when anything first comes out, you hear all the bad, right? Just like with the EVs, these electronic vehicles, have a lot of people really stumped. How is this really going to work? Is this going to be good? I see where they can be good. The downsides right now, I think, outweigh the positives. I think there are a lot more negatives than positives in the EVs for over the road trucking. Again, for local trucking, for regional trucking, I think it's a great thing. I think it could help with emissions somewhat. I think that it could help with a lot of things in the industry in general. But what I don't see it being working out good with is over the road operations with truck drivers that are out for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, 2 months, whatever. Okay. My last stint out on the road, I spent I want to say I was out for 4 months without coming home. 4 months without coming home. This kind of vehicle is not going to work for 4 months out on the road without coming home. That said, I do like the concept. I do think that long-term electric vehicles can be viable. But let's talk about where that electricity comes from. Okay. I know a lot of people have said, well, we're going to have to increase our coal production to produce enough electric to make EVs viable across the board. And that's true. We're going to have to build a lot more nuclear power plants. One or the other. Maybe we could do a little bit of both. Right? But the idea that solar fields and wind fields are going to work, I believe, is way off base. Here's why. I think we've all seen apocalyptic movies where like everybody is pretty much just gathered in cities and the rest of the country is just pretty much wasteland, right? That's what I see with solar. That's what I see with wind, okay? Because it takes a lot of real estate for solar and wind to get any decent amount of electricity rolling, right? And if we have to build such a base of solar and wind and more mining and whatever, we're going to lose so much real estate that people are going to just be pushed more and more and more toward the big cities, right? And so we're going to lose suburbia. We're going to lose country life. There's a lot of things that are just going to get worse and worse real quick. I don't think that the majority of America wants to live on top of each other. We all don't want to live in a New York City type situation. We all don't want to live in a downtown Chicago type situation. So, yeah, I think that there's a lot to be done yet before we can say EVs are the way to go. Now, as a sidestep for a second, talking about just EVs in general, Harley Davidson let out their new e-bike. What was that, last year? Year before last now? Yeah, maybe it's been a couple years. I don't know, but it's pretty sharp. I still like the gas motors myself, but the bike itself is pretty sharp. I can't remember what the range on it is, but yeah, it's not a terrible range as I remember. But again, the deal is it's definitely not meant for somebody who's going to be traveling across country on a motorcycle, right? Yeah, I've got a big bagger and I like to go, right? Not on the interstates. I'm out of the big truck now. I stay off the interstates as much as I can. Matter of fact, I kind of drive my wife crazy because, she's like, well, we just want to get there. We just got to get there wherever we're going. Right. And I'm like, yeah, but do we have to do it on the interstate? It's quicker. We got it. Let's go. I, now that I'm not in the big truck out on the big road, I don't want to be out on the big road. I want to be on the back roads, just laid back and enjoying my ride. But so, yeah, tell me, as far as, and not just motorcycles, but cars as well. We've got several EV cars out on the market now. What are you guys' takes on these things and where the future of our economy goes with the electric vehicles? Again, I think they're great in some aspects, but long haul, it's just, and that's long haul, whether you're in a car, whether you're in a pickup truck, whether you're in a big truck, whether you're on a motorcycle, whatever, if you want to go anywhere of distance in your own vehicle without having to take public transportation or whatever, how is this going to play out? Because I think the majority of American people are still going to prefer being able to use their own vehicle and not feeling trapped somewhere, right? Because that's one of my things. If I'm out with friends or whatever, um, if my wife and I go out, we don't want to be without our vehicle, right? We want our vehicle. We don't want to have to rely on anybody else, whether that's public transportation, a friend, whatever. We don't want to have to rely on other people. And I think that's kind of the breakdown of the electronic vehicle revolution, right? Is that you're going to lose some amount of that feeling of personal security that you can go when and where you want, because you're going to become more reliant on others and not as reliant on yourself. And I think self-reliance is pretty much bred into Americans. Most true blood Americans, self-reliance is a thing. And I think it's an important thing. It's the one thing that probably keeps us the freest nation in the world, is our individual self-reliance. But I digress. Electronic vehicles, Tesla, how do you feel about it? Where do you think we're going with it? Again, one of my big things is the parking issue. We've got so many parking issues with big trucks. We don't have enough parking. One lady was talking about drivers, the fake driver shortage. Just so you guys know, it's a fake driver shortage. But one lady was talking about how these new trucks are sharp, and the younger generation will want to drive them, and so that'll take care of our driver shortage. Whatever, just whatever on that. But some of the things that people are saying who aren't in the trucking industry blows my mind. It's like, these people really don't have a clue. They don't have a clue, which you expect that, because in their industries, there are things that I don't understand, don't know in their industries, right? There's things that those who are truck drivers don't know about other industries. Those who are teachers don't know about other industries. Those, any industry you're in, that's your industry. That's what you know the most about. And while you might know a little bit here and there about other industries, you don't really know the other industry. One of my primary industry now is the self-help industry. I build courses and I do personal coaching. So that's my main thing now. But I've transitioned into that over a long period of time. Many years ago, I was in ministry, and so that kind of dovetailed into this. And being a trainer over the years that I was a truck driver also helped build on that as well. So I kind of had both industries in me, right? It's not just an either or thing all the time. Many of us are familiar with more than one industry. However, the majority of people that I've seen making comments about the EV trucks, specifically the Tesla truck, don't have any idea. They have zero idea about trucks. And honestly, I feel like they should probably just stay out of the conversation, because they make themselves look not very smart, right? But yeah, that's a thing. People talking about things they don't know about. These trucks are going to be good in many ways, but it's going to be a learning curve. It's definitely going to be a learning curve. We're going to have to come up with better battery technology that doesn't require all the mining that current batteries take. We're going to, speaking of batteries, okay, so when it comes to charging batteries, we all know that the more times you charge a battery, the less use you get out of it, right? Okay, so we're talking on distance on these Tesla trucks. They're saying 500 miles. Phenomenal, 500 miles. Now they're talking about building something that can last longer. Great, that would be perfect. However, they're batteries. The more they charge, the less you're going to get out of them, right? So while they might start off at 500 miles, 6 months from now, is that battery only going to be giving you, say, 300 miles? Because if that's the case, that's going to be a problem. Are you going to have to be replacing these hugely expensive batteries every 3 to 6 months in order to keep your 500-mile range? Because that's going to get costly for a lot of companies, and it's not going to be good. They said, well, this is going to cut down on diesel costs. Well, of course, it'll cut down on diesel costs. If you don't have to buy diesel, it's going to cut down on diesel costs. However, that doesn't mean it's going to cut down on your overall fuel cost, because the battery is your fuel cost now, right? And while, yes, you might spend 2 cents per whatever, 2 cents per mile for cost of electric generation versus 30 some odd cents per mile per gallon of fuel, you've still got to pay the piper when that battery's dead. Okay, the difference between a diesel truck and a electric truck is that you can put diesel through your motor for well over 1 million miles. I've been in trucks with 1.5 million miles on them and more without having to replace that motor. Yeah, you do normal maintenance, overhauls, things like that. Things that I assume that while you don't have the same kind of motor with the electric vehicle, I mean, it's still going to need parts replaced. There's still going to be breakdowns on these trucks, right? But with the battery being your primary thing instead of your actual motor, because the motor on these is pretty small, right? Which is pretty phenomenal for the power that they put out. They are very small motors. But the problem is the batteries are what costs, and they cost more than a motor. They cost way more than a diesel motor. And now you're talking maybe having to replace them every 3 to 6 months or even every year. Okay, that just wiped out all of your cost savings. Every single bit of it. I don't know. These are my thoughts, my ramblings. But what I really wanted to come on here and talk about the most, and then I'm going to just wrap this up. I've been on here more than half an hour. I planned for half an hour, and I've been a little over half an hour. But what I wanted to say is a few things. So I'm going to recap. First of all, I think electronic vehicles can be good. I'm not totally against them. I've grown up from where I was back in the 90s when I started driving truck as a 21-year-old snot-nosed kid. I've grown up and understood that, hey, some things that are scary when they first happen aren't really as scary as we might think they are, like the electronic logs. I'll be honest with you, I didn't start on electronic logs until the end of 2011. And for me, it was the best thing ever in my life. To this day, I still think that electronic logs have been a great thing. Have there been their ups and downs? Are there some freedom slashing things there? Yeah, I think so. But all in all, I think they're better than they are worse. They're better than they are bad. They're gooder than they are badder. Anyways, another thing is the onboard computer systems, enforcement computer systems. I'm still against those. I think they're a waste of taxpayer money. I think they can be dangerous. But again, that's my opinion. But my point is that sometimes things look scary when they first get going, and they don't end up being quite as scary maybe as we thought they might be. Don't get me wrong. I still think the onboard computers are a lot scarier than we even realize. But with the electronic vehicles, I don't think that we need to be scared of them. I think that they're going to have their place in the market, but I don't think, at least in the next 5 to 10 years, that they're going to actually become a regular thing. They'll become a regular thing in big cities. they'll become a regular thing for some of the lightweight haulers like Frito-Lay. I think this is a great move for Frito-Lay. I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer because they will be going straight, straight out, straight to the next terminal most of the time. So there's that. But here's what I really wanted to say. For those of you who are saying that this truck, A, is way too late because he said he was going to be doing this in 2019, please get your head out of your rear end and understand that from the end of 19 through at least the beginning of this year, government has been pretty hard on letting companies run full out. Okay. Where he's at, especially, yeah, they've had some issues with being able to actually keep people working. All right. So please take that into consideration. Get your head out of your butt and quit associating Tesla with Twitter. Okay. They are two different investments by the same person. People make investments all the time, multiple investments. Some investments they do great with, some investments they don't. Okay. But if you are so tore up about the whole Twitter deal that you're going to allow it to fog what you see in other business deals, then you, my friend, are going to have big issues in the world. Okay. So anyways, that's it for today. I am going to set up a regular time. I think on Saturdays in general, I think I will start doing this every Saturday. We'll see. But this has been fun. I've had 0 viewers, and that's okay. I had fun doing it, and it's going to be out here on the YouTubes for forever and ever. So I'm sure somebody will see it at some point in time, and I hope when you see it that you'll give me a thumbs up and maybe even a subscribe. But thanks for your time, friends. Have a great weekend. And if you are a truck driver and you see this today and you are home for your weekend or you're just down for your 34 somewhere, enjoy your time off, brother. Enjoy your time off, sister. Enjoy your time off, my friends, because Lord knows you deserve it. Have a great day, everybody.